Now let's dive into one of the most vital aspects of server management, setting and managing file permissions. No more fussing with intricate GUI settings. Starting off, we have set ACL. This commandlet helps you set permissions without breaking a sweat, be it a single file or a complex directory tree. Then you have get ACL. Need to check who has access to what? A quick get ACL reference, and you got a full report. This is also an invaluable tool for auditing for reading permissions. All right, time to get our hands dirty again. In the following demo, we're setting up permissions for a new department in the company. First, we're going to use set ACL to establish the baseline permissions. You'll see how we can control who gets in and who doesn't down to the finest detail. But what happens when roles change? Well, on-the-fly adjustments are part of IT life. And guess what? Well, changing permissions is just command away. With set ACL, you can modify settings in real time without disrupting workflows. So let's not waste any more time here and dive into the demo. So let's now see what it takes to set up some permissions on a file folder. So to get started, I have my PowerShell console up here on my machine. The first thing I want to do is create a new folder that will store our confidential HR files. So I'm using the new item commandlet to create a new folder called HR records under the C shares folder. Now I'm using the force parameter here to also create the shares directory if it doesn't already exist. All right, so now that that folder exists, let's look at who currently has access. For that, I'll use the get ACL commandlet. Now I'm currently assigning the output of get ACL to an ACL variable because we'll need to modify that a little bit later. So now that that is done, let's check out the ACL variable and see what's in there. All right, so it looks like built-in administrators is the owner, and we need to dive in a little bit into the access and see what that looks like. All right, so here are the individual ACEs, or access control entries. You can tell they're all set via inheritance because of those inheritance flags. Container inherit, object inherit, container inherit, object inherit. That means that those ACEs are being inherited from the parent folder. We only want HR staff to access this folder. So let's create a custom access rule. To do that, we will create a new object using the new object commandlet. When you create a new object commandlet, that creates a new .NET object, a file system access rule in particular. And the first argument is the group that you want to give access to. The next is the level of access. In this case, it's full control, and we want to allow that. You can also do deny as well. Now that we have that rule, we need to add that rule to the original ACL using the set access rule method. All right, we got an error. When it says could not be translated, that means whenever you create a file system access rule, it needs to translate that into a SID, or a security identifier, for NTFS to understand it. So at this point, whenever I just put human resources, it couldn't translate that name to a security identifier. So the reason it couldn't transfer that name is because I actually had the group name wrong. So let's go up here and we'll change the group name to what it actually is in Active Directory. So let's create a new object, and we will set that access rule, and now it works. So at this point, the HR admin group has access on this ACL, but so does anyone else via inheritance. We need to block inheritance, and to do that, we need to execute a method called setAccessRuleProtection. The true argument here stops inheritance. By passing false in the second argument, we are both blocking any new inherited permissions and also removing any permissions that were previously inherited, giving us a clean slate to work with. Almost done. So right now, nothing has changed. We are essentially setting up this ACL object. To apply it, we need to run set ACL. All right, we provide the path to the target folder and the updated ACL, and let's see what happens. Okay, looks like it worked. Let's now check the ACL and see what it looks like. That looks better. Pretty simple now. There's only one ACE here, and it's for HR admins, and they have full control and no inheritance, exactly what we want. Let's test this out by launching another PowerShell console as an HR user. To launch PowerShell as another user, you need to open up File Explorer here. You can right-click this and then go to Open File Location. And then once you're in the File Explorer, you see the shortcut. You hold Shift down, right-click and run as a different user. Let's log in as Susie. She's in HR. Here we go. And now let's try to create just a single file. And it looks like it worked. Great. The file was created. Now, let's switch back and log in as another user with another PowerShell console for a user that is not in the HR admins group. I know Bob is in accounting. He shouldn't have access. Let's see if Bob can create a file too. Oh, access is denied. Exactly what we wanted. Permissions are working as expected. So we successfully applied and tested setting permissions using the, well, quote, standard way, the default PowerShell way, but a community-provided module will make this process a lot easier. That module is called NTFS Security. So let's demonstrate that real quick. To do this process with the NTFS Security module, you first need to download it from the PowerShell gallery. Close off of Bob's console here and get back to the one that I was on. Clear the screen here, and now we run install-module and then provide the name of NTFS Security. This will go out to the PowerShell gallery and download this module for me. All right, looks like it is installed. Let's see if it is available in my session. Looks like it is. Okay, let's see what commands it has. I can run git command like I do on any good module, and I can run NTFS Security, and it looks like you see that you have a lot of different options. You can do a lot of things with this module. I'm not going to go into each of these by any means. I'm just going to replicate setting that ACL like we did earlier. So recall that we had to create an ACE, an entry, and then modify that ACL. It went through all this rigmarole. With the NTFS Security module, it has an add NTFS access commandlet that we can use. With the add NTFS access commandlet, we can simply specify the path, the account that we need, and the access rights. Hit enter, and we're all done. We don't have to go through each of those steps like we did before. The NTFS Security module makes managing permissions so much easier. All right, so we've covered the end-to-end workflow for restricting folder access with PowerShell. We went over the NTFS Security module, Get ACL, and we went over the NTFS Security module, but if you don't have access to the module, Get ACL and Set ACL are your friends for managing permissions with PowerShell.